Good morning and welcome along to the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're here to talk Leeds United 0, Arsenal 0 and give our thoughts. A day later after the game, I'm Stephen Brown. What did I say?
Leeds United 0, Arsenal 0.
Oh, did I do Arsenal? Oh, sorry. Did the game not end after 20 minutes? What a shame. Oh, they lost 4-0. Forget it. Right. End of stream. Can't be doing this. No, it was unfortunately Arsenal 4, Leeds United 0. Wishful thinking on my part there. I'm Stephen Brown. Joining me as ever is Jason Booker to discuss everything. If you're watching on live, please do smash a like on the video, get your comments in, and please do subscribe to the channel. Yes, it was a 4-0 defeat, unfortunately, yesterday there, Jason. And at about 6:15 yesterday evening, when West Ham were 2-0 up against Chelsea at half-time, I was thinking, that gap could be shrinking down to 3 points. Alas, it's as you were in terms of the league table, albeit a hit to our goal difference. Strange one. I mean, I thought we competed well. By the way, we're going to get into it. We're going to break everything down, talk about the key points, players, everything like that. But we'll just kind of give our general overviews straight off the bat. Thought we initially competed well. Arsenal do this thing where they're able to recycle the ball unbelievably well. They just keep the ball and it just recycles through their 11. It's kind of unbelievable, really. It's like a carousel. You can't stop it. And yeah, they got the breakthrough. 2-0, second half. There was a period where Leeds looked like, if we could get something, it could really change the flow. But that didn't happen. Arsenal then kind of put us to bed, really, after that and won the game 4-0. But I think it was all eyes switched to the West Ham game after that then, really. It was kind of, once that was done, we got Arsenal out of the way. The record against Arsenal, it's painful. This unbelievable. I'm going to throw a stat up later. I don't know why. I must be a glutton for punishment, but it's pretty brutal, the record against Arsenal in the Premier League. But yeah, I mean, it's one of them, Jay. Look, we've been on an unbelievable run. We haven't seen many days like this, unbelievably, in the Premier League, really, when you think of the gap you're trying to bridge. And it's just one of them, isn't it? You just got to take your licks sometimes against a team that's top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League, could win a quadruple, have spent £1 billion on the squad. They're in the 6th year of Mikel Arteta, so it's very kind of, structured and they know what they're doing. And at the end of the day, we were on the brunt end of it.
Well, they're arguably the best team in Europe. They're certainly in the top 3 or 4. Nobody'd be surprised if they win the Champions League, I don't think. They've got a very systematic way about doing it. They're not the best team to watch that we've ever seen or anything like that. But in terms of this version of the Premier League right now, they are the best that there is. Whether mentally they'll be able to get over the line or not is a different question. City and Villa are only 4 points behind them. But I think considerably out of what we've seen, they are head and shoulders the best team in the division. And yesterday, they didn't even really, I know Saka got injured in the warm-up, but they weren't really missing much. And when, they can replace Saka at short notice with Madueke, who's, I know he's not hit the ground running, but he's a top player. And I mean, yesterday we were excellent. It were untouchable. They've humbled us a bit over the 2 games. I didn't really see that kind of scoreline happening at Elland Road. But it kind of felt like we kind of aided them with it. I don't think it felt like a 4-0 battering. It felt like a 4-0 game in which we threw 2 in. We obviously all know, we'll come to it in more detail in terms of what happened with the second, but what happened with the second happened with the second. We should save the third. It's not like it's teams like Arsenal are going to get shots on goal and we need our goalkeeper to save some. That's it. And, it's as straightforward as that, really. There is even an argument that he should save the first one. I know some fans are kicking and screaming that one's straight at him. I personally think it's it's difficult given the position that it's in, but alas, it's in. So, yeah, I thought we stood up to it quite well. I thought we defended the set pieces all right. I mean, in the first half, they had 7 or 8 corners, and it takes us to punch one in ourselves for them to actually score. I thought we defended it okay. So, and then in the second half, I really did think that we came about it in the second half quite well. And if we'd have scored in that first 25 minutes of the second half, I do think we'd have potentially been able to get something, because the game state changes, but they're able to wrestle control back before we do get a goal. And they go on to score one more then after that. So it's just one of them days at the office in the Premier League for me. You know, we haven't had many, like you said. Well, we've had two. They're both against Arsenal, home and away. You could argue maybe Brighton, put the Brighton game in there as well at 3-0. But we haven't had many at Premier League level. We've competed extremely well. And the last thing that we need to do, as we have said on this show for weeks and months, is to freak out and panic about it. We need to show the stomach for the fight, because that's what it is, and it's what it was always going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a predictable social media meltdown after the game with all sorts of wild stuff being branded around, and you're absolutely right. This is a game that you just kind of put to bed and forget about it as quickly as possible. That's what Farkas said. That's what I saw Ethan Ampadu come out and say as well, and couldn't agree more. Let's get to some of your comments then. Thanks for those. Keep them flying in. Gav, morning guys. Thank God Chelsea won. Yeah, absolutely. Chris, we were just lucky Chelsea came to our rescue. Gav here, minus 11 goal difference and 9 is Arsenal. Yeah, great point. We must beat Forest on Friday and put the pressure on West Ham, who are away to Burnley on Saturday.
Can we just talk on West Ham just for a minute?
Yes.
I know it'll probably come up a couple of times, but you know, yesterday was a prime example of why they're still a really bad side, and they've still got big problems. You know, they find themselves 2-0 up at half time. I don't believe that we lose that game. I don't. If we're 2-0 up at half time, I believe we're seeing the game out. They're so fragile, and they concede 3 goals in the way that they did, and then have an absolute meltdown at the end of the game, which should have resulted in them having 3 red cards. They get 1 sent off. It probably should have been 3. So, you know, people have rewritten this narrative around West Ham over this last week or so because they got 2 wins. They're still not very good, and they're still 6 points behind us with 14 games to go. That's a huge gap, and we need to stop this. Like, all of a sudden, Leeds are terrible, and West Ham are the next coming of prime Barcelona. That's what's happened. This shift has happened massively. And I've seen people say stuff like, well, they've strengthened. You don't know if they're strengthened. You are just applying 2 and 2 and potentially getting 5 into the logic of they've signed players, so that means that they've got better. I don't see that at all. I see that the fact that they've beaten an awful Spurs side and they've beaten a really, really average Sunderland side who were massively out of position. Sure, they find themselves 2-0 up against Chelsea yesterday, but Chelsea were awful. They were really, really bad. And Rossini had taken a bit of a gamble yesterday on playing some of the players that were a bit more on the fringes. At halftime, he changed it, and the game was completely different.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? And I'm sure I remember when we got relegated last time. I'm sure there were a couple of games where we kind of got a lead like similar and then tossed it away. And it's kind of what you do, isn't it? It's kind of, you know, when you're not, you know, properly set up, when you're a bit fragile, that kind of thing happens. But yeah, I've got to admit, when it was 2-0 at half time, I was like, oh, please, don't give over. But yeah, it sounds as if Chelsea turned it around. Mark, hi lads, good morning. Mark, welcome along. Gav, Saka not being very good this season, so that change was probably more unhelpful to us. Yeah, I mean, it's like you mentioned as well, Jay. I mean, you know, Madueke coming in. I mean, their depth on the bench for Arsenal, you know, the players they can bring on, it is pretty relentless. Let's kind of rewind then to the start, the starting lineup, and it was as you were. So you had Gruev in there and Brendan up top, kind of, you know, doing that kind of floating role to try and support DCL. And I thought for the first 20 minutes, it was looking like we've seen a few games against top sides this season where they're scratching their head a little bit and we're intense, we're pressurising them. There were a couple of moments where Brendan had it out on the left and, you know, we're advancing the Ampadu shot. You know, that was a brilliant bit of play. You know, and it really looked as if we were kind of building momentum. And then, as I mentioned, Arsenal got into this recycling the ball where all of a sudden they've got it for like 10 minutes up at us and we just can't seem to get out. Like we mentioned, there should have been a foul throw given at one point, which would have interrupted the flow, which was very annoying that didn't happen. And then, but, you know, when they're recycling it so effectively as they did, I thought Madueke looked like a different species. I mean, he was unstoppable on that our left-hand side. He was just, you couldn't get near him, you know, and it's not very often that Gabby can't get near someone, but he couldn't touch Madueke. And eventually they get that goal, and you think, well, there we go. And then the corners, Jay. I mean, it's like you say, I felt we defended them so well, and then we've put it in the net ourselves. You're like, what? When I watched it, I couldn't quite believe what had happened. I was like, oh, surely an Arsenal player has done something to kind of force that in or something. It was like, no, there was like 3 Leeds players, like DCL's jumping up, Darlow's scrambling against his own player, and then knocks it in the net. I'm like, what?
It's a calamity.
Like Gabriel or something coming in and causing havoc. It was us doing it to ourselves. It was bizarre.
Yeah, there were no foul. There were nothing in there whatsoever. It was just terribly read by Darlow. You know, I don't even think Calvert-Lewin really gets in the way. Calvert-Lewin is instructed to attack the ball at the front post. We have to be fair as well. It's an unreal delivery.
Yeah.
When it's whipped in at that pace, that close to the front post, you are going to panic as a defender and goalkeeper. But Darlow should still deal with it. You tip it out for another corner, you punch it away, you do whatever. Like, as the goalkeeper, you have to be the most commanding presence possible to deal with that situation. I think, look, you're right in terms of the way that the kind of opening 20 minutes played out. I were fairly happy with the way that we started the game. We built a bit of possession. We actually managed to keep hold of the ball from time to time. We did create a couple of half chances and we got into some decent positions. But Arsenal are really good. They're really good. And the way that ball got whipped back in for Zubimendi was quality. We didn't react properly as a defensive line, but that's understandable. It's funny, we praised Pascal Summit Chronic on Monday. We really gave him some flowers. He was horrendous. He was horrendous yesterday, but he wasn't on his own. That's not just to give him, grief. It's difficult with that much movement and ability in and around. And yeah, like just to come with Madueke, I mean, if Madueke can't really play for Arsenal at the minute, if he were to come into Leeds, it'd be our best player by an absolute country mile. Yeah. That's the difference in the two squads, So, and then the corners, they were relentless in terms of the quality. They don't misplace one. It's not like other teams like they'll shank one to the front post and it'll hit the first man, or it'll go straight out of play, or it'll go out other side of the box or whatever. Arsenal's are just pinpoint every single time in and around that 6-yard box. It's so difficult to deal with, and you have to say fair play to them. They've grown. Yeah, it's a bit Tony Pulis Stoke, but they've grown a different side to their Arsenal.
Well, this is the thing. They're not when you think of, let's say they go and win a couple of cups this season. Let's say they win the Premier League, they get a domestic trophy, or even the Champions League. They're not going to be a team where you look back like Barcelona 08, 09, or maybe the great Arsenal teams of the past or anything like that. It's kind of a weird kind of machine. It's a real machine that Arteta's built up there. And you've got to say, I mean, I respect it from the point of view, you've got to admire how, if anybody can put a winning formula on the pitch, you've just got to hold your hands up and go, yeah, fair play. Like, they're finding a way to do it. It's not the best to watch, or anything like that, but it is what it is. It's effective.
It's similar to the Chelsea Jose Mourinho team. That people forget what that team were like to watch. We just remember them being really good under Jose Mourinho. That team conceded 13 goals, the Chelsea team. They've got the record. They were horrendous to play against because defensively they were just so well set up. And then they had flair players the other end of the pitch that made the difference in front of goal, Drogba's and Nelkas and, Hazard's a little bit later and a few of the others. But they were systematic. Again, Alex Ferguson reinvented Manchester United to look different ways over the years. The teams that he had later on were unbelievably good on the counter-attack. Yeah. Fluid, but they weren't tiki-taka Man City, Barcelona. The Invincibles, they were a different mould altogether. They were much more attractive to watch. But, again, go back a little bit further and the 1-0 to the Arsenal, that was the thing. There's many different ways to kind of approach it. And Arsenal, it goes to show you that managers that work for top managers don't necessarily make the same style. Arteta worked under Pep, and the styles of football are completely different. I would say the presses are similar. Arsenal's press yesterday was very, very good. And again, I thought we dealt with that really well. I thought we dealt with it really well. But just that clinical edge, I mean, even the I'm not going to talk about the Gyökeres goal just yet, but the Jesus goal, it's just class. It's just class.
Yeah, so. You just can't do anything. We'll get to a few more comments and then we'll chat about the second half as well. Skip was frustrated by the result, but it won't define our season. Do we start with Darlow or Perry against Forest? We're going to have a big chat about the goalkeeper situation a little bit later on. Got a quote from Farke to pull up as well. That's been doing the rounds, so lots.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
We will get into that a little bit later on. Skip, I don't see what Okafor offers us in the game. Surely start Nonto. Gav, Okafor has been such a disappointment. Tom,
I just keep that comment up. I'm just going to say I would argue that Nonto is just as disappointing as Okafor, if not more, personally. I think it's the easy solution again to just be like, what's the alternative? Because he's not been as good as we maybe thought. I don't think either of them are maybe the long-term solution, if I'm honest.
No, I tend to agree with that. Tom, ultimately, it looked like men against boys, 0 shots on targets or any real chances, but they're a quality team, quality subs. I'm not a huge fan of the men against boys phrase. I think sometimes it does kind of diminish a little bit, and I kind of get it, but I'm a little bit uncomfortable because I feel like we're not a. It was boys when we were last time in the Premier League. I don't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree.
Let's have a look. So I mean, second half, Jay. I mean, there was, when we came out, there was some changes made. Gruev came off, Longstaff came on. What was the other change that we did?
Okafor came on for. Came on for.
The hell did Okafor come on for? Justin, yes, Justin, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. And it felt like, let's give ourselves another outlet. Okafor, I've got to be honest, I'm so frustrated with this guy. There was a bit where it was classic Okafor, and I can't tell you how many streams I've mentioned that he does it, where he knocks the ball past the defender and doesn't get anywhere near to getting round and making it to the side. And Farke went absolutely ballistic at him. And I was like, get him, Farke, get this guy tall, because it is unbelievably slack. And I'm extra frustrated with Okafor because he's a big guy, powerful, pacey, technical ability. But by God, he just under-delivers consistently. I think, if he could get a bit of consistency and a bit of final product and just play with a bit more intensity, he could be a hell of a player. But I thought
No, I think you're right. I think it's funny though how narratives do stick with players, because I do believe that if Nonto or Ramazani were starting and displaying the exact same performances, I don't think he'd get the grief that Okafor gets. I just think it's the kind of some of it's the transfer fee, and some of it's the reputation. Play for AC Milan, play for Leipzig, and all the rest of it. I get it, but it's bigger than that, innit? You know what I mean? And Okafor has got something to offer, and we do need to probably be a little bit more patient with him. But when we need him, it is important that he contributes. Again, we've spent all season defending Brendan Aronson, who's had a really good season, yet he gets absolute battered, and then yet he's actually given us more creative outlet than anyone else in the team, really. So yeah, we do need more from him, but I do sympathise a little bit with yesterday's situation. Yeah. Come on at half time against the best team in the division, 2-0 down, and you're expected to be the saviour. You know what I mean? And we didn't play particularly well as anybody. Within the individual, I think Gabby was still carrying a little bit of a knock. I don't think he was fully fit.
Yeah, I thought that.
I thought Calvert-Lewin couldn't get anywhere. He couldn't get any joy against the backline at all. I didn't think he had a good game. I thought his movement was a little bit stagnant. The midfield, Gruev's received absolute battering. And bear in mind, that's only the third loss he's ever taken when starting in a Leeds United shirt, for God's sake. He's in there to do a role. And just because you don't understand the systematic side of the tactics, he just gets absolute pelters, yet Longstaff comes on and was arguably worse. we were cut open more in the second half. We defended better first half. You think about the chances that we actually passed up in the first half. We didn't pass up that many. It was one Darlow punch into the net and a cross. That was it. You know what I mean? They weren't laying siege to the goal, even though they were dominating the game. Second half, it looked like they could cut us open whenever they wanted. We've had this before when Gruev comes off the pitch, so you have to start putting some respect on it. But yeah, there weren't really anybody. You know, Joe Rodon didn't have a good game yesterday. Jaden Bogle, I didn't think had a good. There weren't any. There weren't enough performances. I didn't think Brendan Aronson really contributed as much as what he could. But it's together, innit? It's when you've got 5 or 6 off, it's impossible for anybody to look good, really.
Well, I was surprised in that second half for that period where we just seemed to have the ball constantly. We couldn't unpick the lock. We never looked like we didn't create anything during that period. But I was really surprised. I was like, if I was an Arsenal fan, I would be like, "What are you doing? Don't let them because we pinned them back." But we had zero. We had nobody who could pick a pass, and it just wasn't happening. You know, you look at someone like Longstaff. You know, he's not going to unlock the door, is he?
No,
in a million years, Longstaff is not going to unlock the door. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of role he has, because he's not a starter for me at the minute. And I think you're right. I think it's not something I'd thought about, how much more open we actually looked, you know, especially, you know, later in that second half with him on the pitch. But it's true. Maybe...
Sorry to interrupt you. I do think it was interesting that Tanaka didn't come on yesterday.
Yeah.
I think it shows a lot of where Farker is with him.
Yeah, exactly. Where's your mindset in terms of when you're 2-0 down against such a good team like that? Are you more on the side of damage limitation, or would you have been more get Willie on, get Buonetto on earlier, you know, or is it, well, let's not completely lose our structure here? I mean, you know, because I mean, the problem is if a team like that is capable of banging so many goals against you, if you have that mentality. But at the same time, I understand and can appreciate that part of the game where we had the ball, we could not lay a glove on them. I mean, we didn't even have a shot, did we?
No, I mean, you've got to be careful. You have got to be careful. I personally would have probably stuck with the 5-3-2 yesterday. Or the 3-5-2. When he changed it to 4-2-3-1, I don't think it gave us what he was expecting from an attacking sense. We've done it against Liverpool and opened up the spaces. You know, you've got to make these calls. It's great with hindsight that you can say that you can do something different, but the reality is I thought we actually wrestled control of spaces, that we'd lost control of the spaces when we then had less in that area of the pitch. But it's hard. I mean, there might have been nothing that anybody could have done yesterday. They are just so much better than us. You know, quicker, stronger, faster, better passing. But there's nothing that we do better than them. Nothing. The perfect day where they're off it and you're on it, and that was clearly not the case from minute one. They were at it. So I don't think there's that much. You know, we didn't. 4's not great, but we didn't get, you know, thumped. We didn't get super drubbed. I'm talking 6, 7, 8s. You know, so it could have been worse.
Yeah, I know. There was that bit in the second half when they get to 3, 4 goals. You think, oh, let's just let's put a stop on that. And the third goal as well. I rode on. It was bizarre to me that he didn't jump that cross. I'm watching it because at the time watching it live, I was like, straight away I was like, why has he not jumped for that? And there's just no attempt, and it just goes over him. And you're like, no, maybe he gets it or maybe he don't. But this is Joe Rodon. He tries to put his head on anything, doesn't he? I just don't understand. And do you think when you're playing such a good team like that and they're so overwhelmingly better in all those ways you just mentioned, it almost like kind of makes you make even more mistakes because you're so far behind them? And I felt maybe there was a little bit like, I mean, it's like Strauch against Jesus for their goal. I mean, we know Strauch's one-on-one defending there's a lot to be desired there, because Jesus is just backing into him, rolls him perfectly, slams it home, Strike don't get anywhere near him. And you just, you know, when the other team is so much better than you, I just wonder if that even kind of compounds things a little bit. But yeah, there was just the kind of some little bits that you see like that where you go, we don't normally do that.
It's mental pressure. It's mental pressure. That's all it is. And you're right. I mean, when I first saw it, I didn't really I'd not clocked to what you were talking about, and then I watched the replay come through and watched Joe Rodon a couple of times, and it was well within his jumping reach. I can only suspect that by the time he's realised it's coming at him, he cannot then start to react to get it off the ground. It's easy watching it back in replays 4 or 5 times and say, right, you should have jumped then. But if you don't jump then, you're screwed. You can't jump. So I think it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's gone in it within that second. We see it second hand through a replay. It's easy to say, well, I should have done that. Once he hasn't, and that's it. You can't do anything about it. Defenders make mistakes all the time that then shouldn't end in really easy goals for the striker. Pascal Struijk still doesn't do enough, and Cardallo should just catch it. I genuinely believe my 16-year-old son in goal would have saved that. I'm being deadly serious. It's not even there's no power in it. It's straight at him. Darlow's going the other way. All he has to do is set his feet. It's not even, like, genuinely, Browney, it's a really, really easy save. Really easy save. It's easier than the one that he makes. So 5 minutes later, that's straight at him that he tips over the bar. So, yeah, bizarre.
Yeah, really strange. Yeah, absolutely. Martin, thanks for your comment. A win would have been a disaster, a la Liverpool under Jesse. It's great to reset and get real. No one should be happy that our first choice goalie is inadequate and our attacking options are limited. Watching your face there. Also reading that. Brilliant.
That's just nothing like the Jesse Marsh Liverpool result.
Interesting take. Malcolm, Leeds were shocking, lad. Thank you, Malcolm.
We needed that.
In terms of the attacking options that Martin mentions there, Buonanotte, I mean, look, you're coming on at 3-0. I mean, it's not exactly the ideal scenario to come on. What do you make of him?
I said to you yesterday, like, I've not got confidence in it. I'm not enamoured by what I've seen so far. I've seen him obviously play a lot better for Brighton, for Leicester. I know he's well thought of, and I know he can give us something. I just think he's really rusty. I think he's miles off it. I don't think he's anywhere close to starting games for us. I'd be shocked. And I think the main reason for that is I think he's only can be as a direct replacement for Brendan Aronson. And I just don't think he gives us anywhere near the output that Brendan will. When Buonanotte at the minute is running around the pitch, he looks like he's stuck in treacle in comparison. Brendan moves with rapid pace. I just don't see it. I think he's maybe trying a bit too hard. I don't know whether he fits within the system yet. I don't know where we're going to play him. Came on the right, then we're playing 10. Like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know, Brownie. I don't know what it looks like. I understand it's a good option. I understand he's probably an improvement on Jack Harrison and what Jack Harrison were giving us, because Jack Harrison basically gave us nothing. We've got options down that left-hand side, and Justin can play left back, and all these kind of things. But I just don't see where he fits in. He's not going to play in front of Anton Stark, who, you know what, Anton Stark, just for a minute, I thought he was the best player on the pitch for us yesterday.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. He was one that I forgot about within kind of going through the individuals, and that's because I did think he was actually very good yesterday. But he's definitely not going to play over him, and he shouldn't be playing over Brendan. So what do you do with him?
Yeah, and then you've got Dan James, who's like waiting in the wings as well. I mean, God, what are you going to do with him? Glenn, I think this is not a game to dwell on. Arsenal bounce back from on doing the same and on to Forest. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get Martin's response up here. If we had won, Jay, it would have given us false confidence. Of course, it's nothing like it. A good job.
False confidence for
I would have preferred to have beaten Arsenal. I'll just lay my cards.
Confidence for what? This team's got loads of confidence. Before yesterday, we'd lost 1 in 10. Like, what do you mean? I don't understand. Like, this team are not. We've not just come off the back of 5 losses and then would have won yesterday and then all of a sudden got false confidence. That's false confidence. This team has confidence, and this team should have confidence because we've been extremely competitive. What you mean is you're hoping that it dupes the club into making a shiny signing with 2 days of the transfer window to go. That's what you mean. You're not saying it, but that's what you mean. And I get it. because as fans, we like that. It's exciting. But the reality is we played the best team in the division yesterday, and they could have done that to anybody. They literally could have done that to anybody. And, you know, we're going to come to Friday's game. Friday's game is the game that matters. I'd argue that, you know, the games against Chelsea and Villa, they are probably more realistic to where we're at than Arsenal at home. Yeah. Arsenal are that good. And I know they've shown over recent weeks that they can be got at, but they are on their own quest to sort their shit out as well. And yesterday, they sorted their shit out. You know? So I don't... in what world, Browney, would it be false confidence for this team that have lost... Let's just say we had one yesterday. Would have lost 1 in 11. How would that have been false confidence to beat them?
Yeah.
You know, if we'd have won yesterday, I would have argued that it'd have been the momentum and the catalyst to see us stay up comfortably.
Yeah.
That's what I would have argued. That comment is bonkers to me.
I think Martin's saying about, I mean, the fans are unrealistic. So I think maybe...
So what you're talking about is maintaining fan expectation, which, again, won't happen because the fans expect this team to be 10th. And we're not.
Yeah.
Me and you have been saying this all season, haven't we? We've said this all season. The expectations of the fan base is wildly out of kilt. We will do extremely well to finish 17th on goal difference. That's
but the social media, you know, fandom, they want... Well, they say the squad's not good enough, players aren't good enough, Farke's not good enough, but we should be 10th.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Exactly.
Just to touch on just some of those comments as well. Buonanotte, it's a tricky one that. There was a nice little run he did. That was the only bit where he kind of dribbled it through into the box, but then there was kind of, you know, it kind of faded to nothing where he thought, oh, maybe a glimmer of something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's difficult. It's really difficult against that kind of opponent. What do you think of? And we saw this a bit at Everton, especially second half. Brendan and DCL isolated. Now, it's not the best game to use as an example yesterday because you're against a defensive behemoth in Arsenal. But we did see it against Everton. You know, they're basically on their own. It feels a little bit, and they're trying to support each other, but the distances are huge, and it's contributing to us being deeper. Is that something is that a tweak we could look at, do you think? And maybe he needs to potentially, I mean, you know, I suppose that's why he brought Okafor on yesterday, which I would call him, you know, which I would have liked to have seen in the Everton game earlier.
Yeah.
To give you another forward outlet. But yeah, DCL, I thought it looked very, very icy. It's like, it's almost like a hiding to nothing because any little scraps, it's, you know, someone's got to run 20 yards to even support you. It's, I mean...
Do you remember when we spoke about the change to 3-5-2? And I was saying to you, there's weaknesses to that formation that people won't think about in just go to playing 3 at the back.
Yeah.
This is one of them. Yeah, this is the biggest one. It relies so heavily on them wing backs getting into positions to be able to support the striker or strikers. That if they can't do that because they're being pushed back by an aggressive attacking outlet from the wings. So yesterday we had Madueke and Urin Timber as an example. If you are pushed so far back, how do you expect Gabby Goodmunson to breach 70 yards to get back alongside Calvert-Lewin when it's going back the other way? You know, so these are the limitations that come with that, with playing without an out-and-out winger. You know, this is what the fan base asked for. So sometimes when we give away possession of the ball by going long, it's because of that tactical adjustment that you asked for, that you said would be the holy grail change. You know, yesterday, it was actually picked up on commentary, and I do think that there's more to it than just yesterday's game. But it appears to me when James Justin starts that we're actually trying to play 4-2-3-1 in possession. When we're out of possession, we go to a 5-4-1. So James Justin slides over to right back. Bogle becomes the right midfielder. and then Brendan Aronson becomes a left midfielder. So if you watch it yesterday, that's what was happening when we was in possession, which were giving us the opportunity to hopefully have more of an outlet. But it still leaves Dominic Calvert-Lewin very isolated because the ball goes there quickly because of the press of the opposition. So if the ball goes too quickly to Calvert-Lewin, there's nobody in and around him. So he's on his own. So it's difficult, mate. There's pros and cons to every tactic and formation, and there's a way that the opposition then can nullify the threats of that formation. And that's what we're experiencing. I would like us to give the 3-5-2 with 2 out-and-out strikers another go at some point, but I do understand why he's reserved to do that against an Arsenal.
Yeah, because Okafor is your second strike. It just doesn't work the same. It's Metcher, isn't it, really? It's Metcher who, if anyone's going to do it, Metcher and Calvert-Lewin will be the one. But Metcher, his fitness is in and out, isn't it?
And we said this about Okafor from word go. He's not a 9. And anybody, I've seen some really reputable influencers all banging on that Okafor was the answer alongside Calvert-Lewin. And we saw a couple of flashes here and there, but said right from work, he needs the touchline on his left-hand side as Okafor. He can't deal with the volume of things that go on in and around him when he's at 9. He needs that space to be really, really effective. And he doesn't play off of the striker very well in the way that we saw against Chelsea that Metcher did.
Yeah, indeed. Just to finish up with Martin, he says, exactly, I don't want a shiny signing. Thank God we missed out on Muniz and Pajau. I'm coming to earth and maintaining my trust in Farke. Very grateful to you for your realism. Lovely. I've got some of your comments starred as well, guys, which we're going to pick up later as we kind of get to stuff. So don't think we're ignoring them. If you watch along, if you've not smashed a like on the video already, please do get the video shared as well. Thank you so much. Well, let's deal with it. Let's deal with the situation. We'll see if I bring up the right comment. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about what happened in game with Karl Darlow. Farke, after the match, says, our board knows my feelings, what we should do. I won't speak in public about my opinions. Sadly, I can't answer that honestly. And that was on goalkeeper potentially transfers. Now, yesterday, you're talking about Darlow, you're talking about couple mistakes, whether you view them as mistakes or just not elite goalkeeping that you need at this level, whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, Darlow was signed as a backup in the Championship for £500,000 and has somehow found himself now starting games against teams at the top of the Champions League and Premier League. So there's question marks into how have we got to there. Lucas Perry, before he was dropped, I had my concerns, but I always thought we would stick it through with him because he was the big goalkeeper signing. He was the one. But it does, and from what we've heard, it feels like it was a compromise between the recruitment team and Farke. Get the feeling, really, that Farke maybe had someone else in mind that probably would have got that backing and support 100% maybe, because managers, if they prefer someone, they will do that. But it leaves a conundrum now. What have we got, a day until the transfer window's shut? I can't imagine we're going to be able to do anything else. We've already got 4 keepers on the books. It's a bit of a sticky situation, is it really, Jay? I mean, questions will be asked. Look, if you've got 40 million to sign on a striker, Strand Larsen, couldn't that money have been used to maybe bring a top class keeper in January? But then it's questions on who's available and all that kind of thing. Tricky one, Jay.
It's a real tricky one. I mean, I think it's now very, very evident that Lucas Perry was not Daniel Farke's choice. I think he's had to make do. It was maybe 4th or 5th on the list. We remember what it was like in terms of the names that were flying around about goalkeepers. Milinkovic-Savic was probably the biggest one, and that was one that really excited me as an absolute unit. I think he was probably the number 1 target, and for whatever reason, that couldn't happen. This happens, by the way. This happens all the time in transfers, where you have to go down your list. But I put this on Farke a little bit, if I'm honest. If you have then come to the agreement that you are happy signing Lucas Perry, there had to be an agreement from Daniel Farke, whether it was reluctant or not. They had to get the agreement from the manager that fine, we're at third or fourth choice. We can go back to the drawing board if you want. Surely that would have been a conversation. As a recruitment team, we can go back to the drawing board and draw up another list of 3 or 4 candidates. But at the minute, we're at number 3 on this list. It's Lucas Perry. Do you want him? I'm sure that Daniel Farke would have had to say yes before that transfer would have had. The goalkeeper position is so important, and it was so important at Leeds United, given what had happened with Meslier at the back end of last season. So I refuse to believe that Daniel Farke was like, no, I don't want him, and the club just signed him anyway. I refuse to believe that. So this is on Farke to then build the confidence of your number 1 up and get him playing to the level that you want. And come the end of the season, if he's nowhere near the standard in what you thought, then you replace him. We saw the length that he gave Elland Meslier. He clearly really liked Elland. Clearly did. We see that now more than ever, given what the landscape was around. It was very quick to drop him. Very quick.
Yeah.
I said that Darlow wasn't the solution. I'm pretty sure that you said the same thing as well. Carl Darlow would not look out of place at the top of League One. He wouldn't. I promise you he wouldn't. If Bradford signed him as a replacement for Sam Walker, I watched the game yesterday, they'd be like, yeah, okay, it's an upgrade, but he's not that much higher level than that at this stage of his career. He's not. He's a dependable, okay backup goalkeeper who can do a job catching the ball when he needs to come in to play games, but he shouldn't be playing every week at Premier League level, mate. He just shouldn't. Now, should Lucas Perry? It's hard to say, but my opinion, he was a Champions League goalkeeper. He's got a big reputation. He's sizable. I don't think we conceded that second goal yesterday with him in the net. I truly don't. I think we're going into half time at 1-0, and it's potentially a different game. Who knows? I think he's better than Darlow. Right now, if you are in a situation where you really don't trust either of them, you have to reshift and go and do something. But it's hard. Because, people are like, oh, Forest are signing Stefan Ortega for £500,000. Yeah, because he's crap.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he's in the same... he's probably better than Darlow, but he's in the same bracket as Carl Darlow. He has sat for 5-6 years of his career, or whatever it is, playing 2 or 3 games a season because he's happy being a backup goalkeeper. That's it. That's his... And he's signing for Forest on a 6-month deal for £500,000 because he's crap.
Yeah.
At this level. Yeah, at this... I'm being flippant, but at this standard, he's bang average. Because if he wasn't, he'd be getting signed to start for a really good team week in, week out on a big, long deal. But he's not. So, and Forest have had all sorts of issues with their goalkeepers. He's a hard position to recruit for. So I don't know what we do, mate, if I'm honest. I think Farke's not helped himself. I think he's put himself in a really difficult position. I said to you during the game yesterday, I reckon Perry will come back in for Forest.
Yeah. Well, I think we were both surprised at how quickly Perry was out of net. And I had concerns. I'm not going to sit here and rewrite history. I positionally, more than anything for me, was the biggest concern with Perry. I really thought he had problems positioning himself, but I was really surprised it was bounced out. I just feel that if it gave so much back into Meslier, who made clear blunders numerous times, cost us, I can't think of how many points Meslier cost us in the Championship. Marcus basically took him right to the end, a few games before the end of the season, before I dropped him, whereas Perry, it's like real battle at Newcastle, and the goal goes in, which I still don't blame him for that winner for Newcastle, and then it's gone. And it's like, whoa, it was kind of un-Farke-like, and his comments as well about Perry. It was like he were proving a point.
Yeah. It was like he were proving a point that he couldn't wait for him to fail. I'm a Farke fan and I've defended him to the hilt, but I'll call it out when it's wrong as well. I thought it would bang out of order the way that he handled him at Newcastle. Really out of order. I've watched that goal loads of times. I'm capable of saying I'm wrong when I'm wrong. I don't think Perry should save that. I know the XG will say this, and that's why you have to use the eye test. Comes through a crowd of players and it goes off to his side. He gets an hand on it. On a given day, he probably makes a world in it. I think it'd be classed as a world-class save if he saves it. That's the you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at that and think, well, if he saves that, I think it's a world-class save, so he shouldn't be expected to save that. Can I just bring this comment up from Chris?
Yeah.
So Darlow has had one bad game and we want his neck. Has been good until the second goal and been good for the games he has kept this year. Give him another go. He hasn't been good. He hasn't. You're kidding yourself, Chris. And your next comment is that might be playing in the World Cup. That doesn't mean anything. He plays for Wales. And that's no disrespect to the Welsh. They've got some good players within that team. But Chris Gunter's played at a World Cup. They've got all sorts of players within that squad that won't be top level because that's the size of nation that they are. I mean, there's going to be some teams from Africa that wouldn't even play in the bottom end of the English pyramid within that World Cup. That's not a gauge to go by. I don't think Darlow's been good at all this season. Me and you have picked out several instances this season of saves that he should have made. The Bournemouth one. There's been other occasions, the Sheffield Wednesday game, obviously, we can bring up as well. I think he's been a pair of hands within the sticks that when he's not really had much to do, he's been okay.
Do you know what I've noticed with Darlow? He comes into the team and it's a good, solid performance, but it declines. I've noticed this. He did this last time he was in before Perry, when Perry were out injured. Darlow started off, and then week by week, the performance has declined. And I feel like we could be about to see that again if he keeps his spot.
And that's why he's a perfect backup goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Because when you are super focused and switched on, and you're playing your debut or you're making your first appearance because he's capable of then being able to be switched on and focused. That's why the goalkeeper position is so difficult, because you spend so much of your game doing nothing. You have to be ready to go. But yeah, you're right. Like, the mentality of a backup goalkeeper will drop and drop and drop and drop, and that's why they're not first-team goalkeepers. So,
Melier, is it time for Melier, Jay?
It's funny, because in the build-up to thinking about the show, obviously no is the answer. But I was thinking to myself in the run-up to coming on, what would we have lost? What would we have lost by just sticking with Elland? Because maybe we would have made it a little bit more difficult for ourselves at the back end of last season. I think the decision had to be made to kind of calm everybody down, but we haven't really gained anything out of it. And the best version, I know we haven't seen it for a while, but the best version of Illan Melier is better than these two. It is. Now, whether it's still there or not, whether it even still exists or not, but it is. The best version of Illan Melier is better than these two. So, I think it's the reason why we won't sign another goalkeeper, because we can't have 5 goalkeepers.
No. Well, then you get to a terminating contract situation, aren't you? Because you just can't have it, can you?
Well, you'd just have to unregister Illan, wouldn't you? Because we register Cairns because of the homegrown quota, and you just have to unregister Illan Melier and just have him sat like being a ball boy or something like that.
It's a great point, though, because it's such a shame about Melier, because you're absolutely right. When Melier, the best version of Melier, he was that next big thing in goalkeeping. His shot stopping position. I never worried about Melier's positioning. It was things like, when the crosses were coming in and just, he was like a polo mint one at times. It was like that kind of stuff if he could have ironed that out. But
so fragile mentally, wasn't he? I think the relegation season really butchered him. I mean, he conceded 150 goals in 2 seasons. Yeah, we let him down. We did. We let him down, and we regressed his progression. And we are as culpable for what's happened with Melier as he is. It'd be interesting to see where he's at. Just to watch him in a game to see what it would be. It would have been. We can't start experimenting with stuff like that at this stage. I mean, he must be so bloody rusty. He's not even. I'm sure he's playing training games, but he's not even playing under 21s. He's not playing any sort of competitive football. It must be a nightmare for him. I think personally you'll see Illan make a big free transfer back to France, or maybe even you might see him pop up in Saudi. I reckon there's probably been some discussions with Melier's agents that have said, look, just ride it out until the summer and then there's this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's where I think Meslier is at, because otherwise it'd have gone by now for a minimal fee.
Yeah, you would have thought, wouldn't you? Let's get to some of your other comments and Skip. We have always had problems with goalkeepers since the early 2000s. We talk about left backs being a bit of a problem position for us, goalkeepers as well. I mean, we've had, some of the situations we've had with goalkeepers down the year, and it's such a peculiar position because you get a good one, that's it, isn't it? You lock it down, don't you? Nigel Martin, we lock it down.
Yeah.
Obviously, probably Rob Green was probably the last best keeper we had, and obviously it was later on. How many seasons did he spend at Leeds? Was it a couple or three or something? Two at the most, wasn't it, really? But he was really good. Apart from that, everything has been up and down, hasn't it?
I think you have to say Meslier as well.
Meslier,
for the period that it was good, like, the end of the Championship, and then once he came on for Kiko, and then the Premier League season. I mean, the Premier League season, bear in mind, he holds the record for the youngest goalkeeper with the most clean sheets. That's a record that Elland Meslier holds. And it wasn't like he was just asked to do nothing in that Bielsa side. Under Daniel Farke, the keeper, most of the time, we don't concede a lot of chances, let alone, in the Championship, we're not conceding a lot of goals. But in the Premier League, the Bielsa system did open up for the opposition because of the way that we played. I'll never forget that save that he made against, I think it was John Lundstrom for Sheffield United.
Yeah.
It's a freak. He's already reacting down to his right, the player's left, and he has no right to save it, tips it round the post. We're going to win that game 1-0. And that's down to Elland Meslier. That first season, he was exceptional. His distribution, we always made reference to that Arsenal game where it was just so good, and then he didn't do it as well. His distribution was levels above what we've seen over Darlow and Perry, and again we rewrite it all because of all the mistakes that he ended up then making. But I do think that for 2 seasons in the Premier League, when you're conceding 10, 15 unbelievably good chances and you're conceding 4 or 5 of them, what does that do? What irreparable damage does that do to a goalkeeper? It's tough, and that's the position that we put him in.
Yeah, 100%. Gav, Sunderland have just signed Melker Elborg, a second keeper from Malmo, for 3.4 million. Sold Patterson to Millwall, so now they have 2 good goalkeepers.
And you know that Melker Elborg is a really good goalkeeper? You don't. I mean, it could be great recruitment. We don't know. Patterson, I don't like Patterson, and I know Sunderland fans don't think a lot of him. He's gone back to probably his level. I think it's a good signing for Millwall. He got promoted with Sunderland last year, but we don't have a clue. This is what we do. Like, if we signed Marcus Elborg from Sweden, we'd be like, "Who's that?
Yeah,
£3 million goalkeeper. This is going to be our solution." Like, that's what we would do if it were our own signing, even if it were the second choice. But because the signing for Sunderland is unbelievable.
Is there something innate with it being Leeds United as a club and the pressure we put on the goalkeepers and the noise around it? Because like you say, with Lucas Perry, I mean, this was a guy, he's Olympic Lyon manager said he was one of the best goalkeepers in Europe. And it feels that what annoyed me with Perry as well was the fan noise around it very early. I always said he needed like 15, 20 games. Consistent. Let's not get on his back for tiny little things, but that never really happened. It was like, I remember very early, he's kicking. How much stuff did we hear about the kicking? And then because it's so mentally tough, that position, you just wonder if the positional stuff starts to happen, and because his positional play wasn't a problem at the start of the season, was it? I don't remember.
I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember all that happening then.
It genuinely was within 2 or 3 games. And that people were already going off, and then he had the little injury and he were out of the team, and people were already saying, well, Dal was probably better anyway. I mean, it's a nonsense. I do think there's a certain element of that. I think we're a funny fan base. We're the best and the worst at times. We must be unbelievable to play for and a nightmare to play for. I mean, we've absolutely butchered some unbelievable players at Elland Road. How many good players have we seen come through the door that we have crushed? I remember Steve Morrison as an example, unbelievable at Championship level. We brought him in and we made a puddle out of the lad. Andros Townsend, Ross Barkley, Jake Livermore. Like I could go on and on and on and on about good players that we've signed that could not deal with it. Barry Bannon, another one. Championship hero. He was awful for Leeds United. This goes on and on. You talk about goalkeepers. We've had some unbelievable goalkeepers on paper as well that have not been able to deal with it. Rob Green, massively experienced, played for some big clubs, played for England, can deal with playing for Leeds United. But aside from that, look at what Silvestri went on to achieve in Italy after being with us. Unbelievable goalkeeper in Serie A. We made a puddle out of him. We do this to players because we are such an expectant fan base, and players like Ethan Ampadu, Joe Rodon can deal with it. They've got that kind of character and mentality that they can deal with it. Some players just don't, and they will, and they go under. And maybe Perry is one of them. Maybe it is part of the recruitment. But for a goalkeeper, you're talking about such a small pool of first choice quality goalkeepers that can deal with that. Mentioning backup goalkeepers, Scott Carson. Scott Carson came through at Leeds United, went to Liverpool really young, made his whole career out of being a backup goalkeeper because he couldn't deal with the pressure of being the main man. Yeah. Simple as that. Sat on the Manchester City bench for nearly 10 years without playing a game. I think it was something ridiculous. But, if we'd have signed Scott Carson when we got promoted to the Premier League, we'd have been like, oh, what a signing. Yeah. No, not for the first year. It is literally, you're talking maybe 20 players.
Well, absolutely.
Do that.
Yeah, I like Kiko, wasn't it? I mean, we're signing from Real Madrid. Yes, it's on the bench.
What a great example! We signed Kiko Casilla from Real Madrid as like the solution. What a car crash!
Yeah,
but just because we signed him from Real Madrid, he was going to be the saviour to the goalkeeper spot. No, God. Bailey Peacock Farrell, Jesus, it's just reminding me of him. He's another one. Bailey Peacock Farrell. I mean, he ended up getting some big moves, moved to Burnley, couldn't do it, ended up, I think he's in League One now. He's been in League One a while.
Yeah, crazy. Defmo game, thanks for your comment, mate. I'm pretty sure Darlow conceded 2 goals a game when Perry was injured as well. Time for them back between the sticks. Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, Darlow's rate of goals conceded skyrocketed when he was out of the team. Wiedfeld, skips up as well. Yeah. What do we do then? Because I do feel the way Farke's treated Perry now, it's a bit of a. I mean, if Perry comes back in on Friday and he makes a mistake, what do you do? Do you go back to Darlow? Do you keep swapping them? I mean, what do you do in this situation now? Because he's made a little bit of a rod for his back because of how he's treated Perry a bit. It's like, well, but you can't do that with keepers, can you, Jay? You can't bounce them in and out all the time.
I mean, the perfect solution would be to sign one that's good, really, really good. Because while I'm defending Perry and this situation and all the rest of it, I recognise his limitations and potentially he's just not Daniel Farke's guy and we might need to just cut his losses and move on. The reality is Leeds United rejected a bid from Besiktas just this week that we're in, and that would tell me that we're going to stick with what we've got. And I would imagine that Perry will come back in and he needs to show the resolve to be able to deal with it. The fans need to get off his back and get behind him. We do need to be a little bit more like that. We will defend certain ones, but not others. We need to back the individual to turn the corner and deal with it. That's why I think Brendan Aronson deserves so much credit, because the fans have been bloody horrible to him for very little reason, really. And he's kept going and kept going and kept going. And he's won more and more and more around. And now, the noise around Brendan has quietened down because he deserves it. I think he deserved it last season. I think he deserved it way before now. But my point still stands in that, you have to say fair play to the lad. He's kind of pushed through that barrier and just kept on going. Some players haven't got that mentality. I don't see anything being done there. I see Perry coming back in. I think we need to build with him until the end of this season at the least, and then see where we go. See where we go from there. But I think we've, again, just in Gad's comment about this one here. Yeah. It's just so harsh. Same can't be said for us, sadly. All right, we might have got the goalkeeper position wrong. Well, what about Jakobiol? What about Anton Stack? What about Dominic Calvert-Lewin? What about Mecha? What about Tanaka? What about Jayden Bogle? What about Joe Rodon? this recruitment team have brought all of them players in. And when they have needed to move them on to improve the squad, a la Glenn Kamara, these players that have come and then moved on, Joe Rothwell, we've been pretty brutal about the recruitment. We've got it pretty spot on. Now, sure, if you're talking about the goalkeeper department specifically, well, they've signed 2 goalkeepers. Carl Darlow, who's a backup goalkeeper, and Lucas Perry. That's it. So we just need to, again, let's not be too harsh, on what has been a good recruitment team.
No, I mean, and to skip touches on here, the fans getting more nervous and worried. I can only see pressure mounting on whatever keeper player. And that's the issue, is it's just like, God, whoever comes in, it's like everybody's kicking off whatever choice it seems to be between the sticks. Yeah,
well, you sign one. What if the new keeper makes a mistake on his debut? Yeah. What then? Yeah, which is fairly likely, isn't it?
Can you imagine being a keeper for Leeds United coming in a relegation battle with 16 games left? I mean, and you make a mistake, God, you might as well just pack your bags, because it'd be an absolute nightmare. So it's really difficult. It's difficult to know what to do with this one, and we'll have to see. But you reckon then Perry's back in for the Forest game?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think the weekend was undefendable for Darlow, if I'm honest. I thought it was really, really poor. And, people have made a lot about his kicking being better than Perry. It's nonsense. I'd argue that we've looked worse going forward directly since Perry came out of the team. Perry's float of pass was better for Calvert-Lewin to attack than Darlow's. Darlow's are too flat. Whereas Perry were a little bit more lofted. It gives Calvert-Lewin opportunity to get under it. Go and have a look. Watch the games and watch how many come straight back at us since Darlow came into the team. I would say, even though we beat Fulham, I'd say we looked better previously, even when we weren't winning the games and getting the draws. Darlow had very little to do against Fulham, but going forward, we weren't great, and we scored a really late goal. Going direct's important, that the kicking suits Calvert-Lewin. So I think it's a no-brainer. I wouldn't have dropped him in first place. So
no, same. Looking ahead at the transfer window, it closes tomorrow, Jay. Strand Larsen deal rumbles on that. I've seen a tweet this morning saying that Mateta deal to AC Milan has fallen through.
Yeah,
so I don't know how reliable that is. So if Mateta ends up staying at Crystal Palace, could that open the door for the Strand Larsen deal to go through? I mean, it's going to be a strange one, isn't it? I mean, it feels like something's going to happen. Maybe it's just lined up that this deal's actually going to go through for Leeds now. I mean, it's going right to the wire, though. I mean, 1 day left. I mean, it closes quite early, isn't it? Like 7 o'clock or something as well tomorrow.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So, yeah, it's going to be a fascinating end to the transfer window there. It's still really hard to call what we're going to do with that one.
I'd be super, super surprised if he's still there come 7 o'clock tomorrow, because it's just financially, it's just not going to make sense for Wolves. They've made their intention clear that they want to get rid of him. They're in and around the ballpark. If Leeds are offering 35 to 40 and they're wanting 45 to 50, we're not that far off. No. And I find this situation with Romano's "here we go" tweet coming and then being taken off really interesting, because it was clearly very, very close. Palace apparently have come out and said that it doesn't matter whether Mateta's there or not. They wanted to sign Strand Larsen, but then it's gone practically, radio silence since. I don't know. It's a really, really, really bizarre situation. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not. I now say probably not, with only 24 hours to go. I don't know. I hope so. I still hope it happens. There is other areas of the pitch in which we need recruits, sure. But Metcha being out yesterday, the problem that we've got with Okafor, Calvert-Lewin's injury history, I still think it's really vital, and I do think it would give us that little bit of an injection that might just take us over the line. Plus, his profile's very good. Resale value is really good. Age is really good. I like it. I really like it as a signing.
Yeah, Gav says here, JSL goes for 25 million in the summer. Apparently, do they risk 15 million knowing they are down? Seems crazy, yeah.
This is what we've been saying in it all week.
Yeah, we've been talking about that. Apart from that, I mean, any can you see Leeds getting anything else done? There doesn't appear to be any links at all now, does there? Apart from the JSL one.
I'd be stunned. I'd be really stunned. I mean, if Daniel Farker's trying to obviously give us some hidden messages with regards to the comms that he's giving to the press, almost as if to say like there could be potentially something for this or that, or could a keeper drop? I'd be so surprised. I'd be so surprised, especially with us being so obviously in for Larsson.
Yeah,
that we would then go and spend X amount on a goalkeeper or anyone else. I do think that they wanted a centre back at the beginning of the window, and I think that that's quieting down because the targets that they really want are going to become available in the summer for free or for lower fees because the contract's running down, and they think, you know what, we can get through with Bornau and James Justin, and I think they're probably right. I think any recruitment at this stage, unless you are spending massive amounts of money, is a risk. I personally wouldn't have wanted us to go and get Tati Castellanos from West Ham, that's gone to West Ham from Lazio. I wouldn't for 40 million quid just because it's a flashy new sign. That felt like Jorginho Rutter not being ready. That's exactly what that felt like. So I'm pretty calm, but I've been calm all season about where this squad's at. And right now we're still 6 points clear with 14 to go. Yesterday was a far better day for Leeds United than it was for West Ham. It was. They were 2-0 up and ended up losing 3-2 in the last minute and got a man sent off. So given the landscape, it's a bit crazy to say this, right? But I would have actually preferred us to lose and them to lose than for us to win and for them to win. Because for them to win 3 in a row would have carried on a consecutive momentum. What happened to them yesterday will have been devastating. They will have been absolutely crestfallen. So I think advantage Leeds after yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Just, when we talk about squad, and might be looking too far ahead here, but you look at the impact of the attacking players and the options we have off the bench, but it could be a real summer of churn. I could see a real kind of revolution in the attack. I mean, I'm looking at James, Nonto, maybe even Okafor. Those 3 in particular for me. I think if we get a decent offer, I think you sell. I don't think those 3 particularly. They're not the future of the attack in my, and that might be harsh on James. I think we've not seen him much, but we know he's limited. We know his limitations, especially at this level. But you've got to have the offers at the end of the day, haven't you, Jay? Someone's got to say, right, we're willing to spend X amount. I think we complain about us not being able to generate enough outgoings, and there's a lot of stuff going on about Peru. I mean, Skip says, why not just let Peru go this window if Farker is only willing to play him for 5 minutes every so often? I bet Peru is so frustrated. But the dreaded thing I see every time is a loan offer for a player. We never get any actual bloody cash offers for any of our players. But one of the keys in the summer, Jay, to really kind of try and move up and move on is getting some of these players out there. I mean, it's like Nonto is a perfect example. I mean, I think he's a decent player. I just don't think he's ever going to lead a Premier League attack or be that important. And I think we've got to try and cash in and get some money and get some churn in those attacking areas, because that's where I think we need a bit more, I think, possibly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the summer would be very much a churn, and it would need to be for us to progress and continue. And some of them would be players that we have only just signed. Mentioned James there. I mean, it's almost like we've forgotten that he's even part of the squad because he's been injured so much this season. I don't even know if we'll see him again. I don't know what his prognosis for coming back is. I don't even know where he fits, if I'm honest. He'd be a bench option and to change the game later on into the match. You'd look at potential resale on Okafor. You'd maybe get your money back. You'd look at potential resale on Mecha. You'd probably fetch 10 million for him if he's somewhat fit come the end of the season. You'd look to probably move on Tanaka. You'd look to probably move on maybe Gruev. And there's others. And then you might have to make a couple of calls on big players as well. You look at Ethan Ampadu. I wouldn't want to sell Ampadu by any stretch of the imagination, but if a big offer came in with 12 months left on his deal and he's kind of maybe leaning towards leaving, you look to then rebuild the squad from 40 million, maybe 30, 40 million. Pascal Struijk, I think, with a full fit Premier League season, could fetch a bit because of his profile, his age, and his experience. So you have got some resale value. You mentioned Nonto as well. I just don't think Nonto fetches very much. Yeah. People talk about him in a certain light, but if I were another team and I were paying any more than 15 million for Willie Nonto, I'd be like, I'd be fuming.
Yeah. We've got Ramazani and Joseph ready to come back in the summer as well. Yeah. I mean, it's like...
Yeah, so to answer your question, there's a lot of churn. A lot of churn needed, but we need to stay up first, because that's a task in itself. Just on recruitment, I'll just bring this one up. And we were in no rush hour this morning. By the way. No. We can go through all your comments, so do stick with us. But this is a great example. Some people would just love to see Adama come through the door just because it's another player that's a little bit different. He's not it, and he hasn't been it for years. And he's been the desperation player for a couple of signings, a couple of teams. Yeah, he offers something a little bit different. The guy's useless. He's scarier than all else. He just intimidates players with the look of him and his greasy arms. But it is a sign of desperation. Yeah. I think West Ham's window has been full of desperation, personally.
Yeah, 100%. Skip, if DCL goes to World Cup, can we see some offers coming in for him? Well, you see with Mecha as well. I mean, if you get 10 million offer for Mecha in the summer when you've spent nothing on him, I mean, PSR wise and all that, you're going to consider it, aren't you? You're going to look at it and go, oh, actually, yeah, we probably should do that.
Let's be real with Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well, right? Like, Calvert-Lewin is beyond us in terms of our trajectory of finishing in the bottom five to his actual quality. But we've taken the opportunity and the risk of paying, giving him a big contract, long time on it, with big wages, where maybe other Premier League teams weren't prepared to do that. And he didn't want to go abroad, but he did have Champions League offers. They were out there. So we've taken that gamble and that risk. But after a year of what he's produced so far, if he continues this season, he's not scored for a few weeks now, but if he adds another 4 or 5 to his tally, right, and keeps Leeds United up, come the end of this season, somebody will be prepared to pay big money for Dominic Calvert-Lewin because he's English, because of his experience, because of his talent and his quality. And you've got to be careful, because if you wait too long, he's going to go past his peak. He's actually at his peak. I think he's 28, 29 now. If you wait too long for Calvert-Lewin, you lose the quality. He starts to go on the way down. So Calvert-Lewin, as much as he's probably settled and happy here, if he gets an offer from, let's just say from Aston Villa, right? Aston Villa have just signed Tammy Abraham. Let's say Tammy Abraham doesn't work out and they sell him in the summer. It'd be a perfect replacement there for that kind of stuff. Yeah,
you could see that, couldn't you?
Of course you could. Absolutely, you could see that. That kind of bridge up. Maybe not the top echelon, but Aston Villa, absolutely. Why not? Makes sense. And then we maybe sell him on for 40 million quid, and we have to say, you know what? We took a great risk. We signed him for free. We got 40 million for him. Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. We can rebuild the squad.
Yeah. Well, we know we're gonna have to do something in the summer. There's gonna have to be a sale. There's gonna have to be a big sale, I think, to be able to churn the squad. Because we came up this year, we didn't sell anyone, did we? We didn't do anything really, did we? So we are going to have to do something. Leeds, hello everyone, hello, welcome along, mate. Brown, didn't West Ham sign Adama for 2.5 million a few years back? He was worth in the region of 30 million plus. He went out on loan to Barcelona for there was something bong. Yeah, he did that. Remember that?
He was at Barcelona, wasn't he? He was at Barcelona.
Loaned back to Barcelona.
And then they loaned him back at some point. Yeah, and that was never going to work. I mean, he's never been good, has he? And he's just got bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know where he finds the time to have that kind of training regime, because there's no way that the club train him like that. He must just go home and just pump iron constantly. That's all he does.
Yeah, it's just crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. How old is he now, actually? Is he like late 20s?
He must be 30. I don't know.
Nuno loves him though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Looking ahead then to Friday, Tom asks, would you class the Forest game on Friday as a must-win? Now, we've talked about must-wins, haven't we, and what is considered a must-win and everything like that. And I guess it ties into the game today because obviously we've debated, would you want Palace to win? Would you want Forest to win? Now, one thing I'm looking at, if Palace do win today and we beat Forest, I do like that. But I'm also aware that obviously Palace are on a real sinking ship at the moment. So I don't know. I can't make my mind up on that. But if Palace do win today and we beat Forest, then that's a good week for us, I think.
It's a funny one, isn't it? It's a really, really funny one is today. We've gone back and forward in it a few times.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure. I mean, it's a 6-pointer, so I think any which way we look at it, there's going to be some kind of positive connotation to it. Because if Forest beat Palace and then we beat Forest, we put both of them behind us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So there is kind of ways to look at it. I think Forest beat Palace today.
Yeah,
same as Gav. I do. I think Palace are in a real hole. Is it at Palace?
I've got a feeling it's at Forest actually. Let me check that. I could be talking absolute poppycock. Yeah, it's at Forest.
Forest. At home. I mean, yeah, it's a tricky, really, really. I mean, probably the draw is probably the best result all round.
Yeah.
For Leeds, that I think I'd put us level with Forest. I think we'd be in front of them on goal difference.
Yeah.
But with them both 6 points clear of West Ham, Palace only then would be 3 points in front of us. They'd be no real better off. You know, we're still within touching distance of them. So. Yeah, a point is probably best. But I kind of feel like I want the jeopardy of either. I don't know. It's a bit sick for some reason. I just would if I had to pick one of the teams to win, I would probably pick Forest just because I want to back the boys on Friday to go and win and then have them both behind us. That's probably the way that I go with it because I think Palace, longer term, I think Palace will end up finishing below Forest.
Yeah, they could do. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The way it's going at the minute, it's absolutely insane. I feel like the Forest game, and obviously we'll do a proper preview on our Friday morning show for it, but I don't know. I feel confident about it. It's at Elland Road. It's under the lights. It feels like one of those games where we always do well in that kind of situation. I would be very confident, and a big boost to that. And someone I do feel like we miss is Yaka Biol could be back. Got a chance now. I think we miss those lovely little diagonal passes he does. His distribution in general is very good. His calmness. Also, I think we're less of a set piece threat without him in the team. At both ends, I think his heading's unreal. I mean, if you could get him back, Jay, for that Friday game against Forest, that would be huge.
I think he's the best centre-back out of the three, but I think he's only the best centre-back out of the three in the centre of the three of them. If that makes sense. He has to play that role. He's so good in that role as the sweeper of the three and let the other two do what they're doing outside of him, but he reads the game so well in that area of the pitch. And don't get me wrong, I think Bornau, Rodon have done okay in that area, but they've never looked as assured as what Biol has since we started playing the three at the back. So yeah, I agree. I think it'd be a massive boost. Try and get as best team out there for Friday. Hopefully Gabby's fully fit and raring to go.
Yeah, Forest
are a funny side because every time I see them, I just think you've got so much attacking talent on that pitch. You can hurt teams all over. Like I'd swap the teams tomorrow. I love this team, I do. But in terms of a team to actually keep a club up, you look at that Forest team and you see, Morgan Gibbs White, and you see not Alanga, who replaced Alanga, Callum Hudson-Odoi. They've got that Ndoye as well. They've got Amari Hutchinson. Then they've got the strikers that they've gone through this season, and Chris Wood's not even played because of injury, but they've got several others that they've kind of gone through. Murillo at the back. I quite like Nico Williams. I think Nico Williams is a good player. Elliot Anderson, what a player. We've spoken about goalkeepers a lot on this show. Sells shared the golden glove last year. I mean, I don't know where their goalkeeper hunt has come from. I know Sells has maybe dropped off a little bit this season, but they've gone through others and now they've landed on Stefan Ortega. I hope Stefan Ortega starts on Friday. I do, because
Elland Road at him.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm telling you, if we'd have signed him this week, there'd have been fans like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then they'd have just seen another backup goalkeeper.
Yeah. What about Forest just signing players, by the way? I mean, you brought up in the group chat yesterday, it's like, yeah, how do they just continually sign players for 40 million?
I don't get it. I know they've done some creative accounting over the last couple of seasons with some of the sales that they've made. Newcastle have been involved in a lot of them. You know, I think they sold Vlacho Moses to Newcastle for 40 million quid, and he'd never even played a game for Forest. That's what they were like their third choice goalkeeper. It's BS, innit? Just get rid of the rules completely and let teams spend what they can spend. The rules exist to try and safeguard clubs of certain statures and sizes from overspending and putting themselves in rack and ruin. I get it, but how often that happens in comparison to how often the rules are now being abused that are then affecting sporting integrity, it's just not worth it. And it's ruining the product.
100%. Newcastle are state owned. There's no risk there. You know, what for me, what it should be really is everybody can have a net transfer spend of 250 million.
Yeah.
And everybody's the maximum salary you can have is 150 million over the year, whatever it is. And everybody can do it, and everybody can go. And look, if you have less wealthy owners like we did under Adrian, you can't spend as much. That's just your lot in life. You know, that's it. I think this thing of, you know, having to, you know, I mean, it's like us. We've got, you know, billionaire backers, for God's sake, and yet we can't quite get this player because, you know, we're 5p over our PSR limit. We might get a points deduction. It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
The problem is, you know, when you've got somebody at the head of the club like Marinakis, who literally don't give a shit, and he's just like, you know, his outlook on life clearly is very rogue, isn't it? You know, you're going to push the boundaries, and they got away with it. They got 2-point deductions or whatever it bloody was. It's an absolute farce. Their man Everton have made an absolute farce of the Premier League have done that to themselves as well. It's nonsense. But you know that we'd be used as the example. And we'd end up back in the Championship because of a points deduction. I can just see it. Yeah. So I do get the club's position of it. I do. You know, we spoke about it. I did a video on it. We've spoken about it. We've spoken about it on messages as well. The way that Leeds United are looked upon and get treated in comparison to everyone else, we would end up probably in hot water.
Oh, 100%. Any excuse, and they would absolutely hammer us. They'd probably invent a new punishment just for us, I think, specifically. Big game ahead then, Jay, on Friday. But before then, transfer window closes tomorrow. Will you be keeping a close eye on that? Is that going to be refreshing Twitter a lot and seeing what's happening, or are you going to try and forget about it and kind of see if we've done any business later in the day? Or, I mean, I'll be honest, I will be refreshing incessantly tomorrow to see if we've got JSL. It would be. I've got to say, I know because people are saying, well, he's only scored one goal and he's not starting and stuff. But do you know what it would be? It would be exciting. It'd feel like, oof, that's a big boy move. You know, 40 million, the player profile, you know, I just feel that will be exciting.
Yeah, and like I keep saying, we are ahead of schedule of signing a player like that. You know, we really would be lucky to get a signing like that in maybe season 2, but probably season 3. So, yeah, and I think it'd give everybody a little bit of a lift. And not that we should need a massive lift. No. As a fan base, we're so bloody fragile. You know, we take one loss to the champions elect, and we're like, we need a signing. It's all sinking ship. Like, but it would be nice on Friday to have him on the bench, and you know, go into that Forest game, massive under the lights with a big name profile coming onto the pitch. You know, yeah, it'd be good, and I think it'd be nice. It'd be nice, but I just don't see it happening. We've been here too many times with Leeds United. When it comes to deadline day, do we make a £40 million signing on deadline day? I don't know.
doesn't feel very Leedsy, does it really, to be honest? Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. Jay, anything else you want to have a chin about before we sign off?
Did we get through all the starred comments?
Let me have a look.
We'll kind of skip by through.
There's one here from Gav. Massive effort now on Friday for 3 points, and we will be looking good, in my opinion.
Let's just say, well, we definitely would. Let's just say for a minute, is it a must-win? Because we kind of touched on it.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
You know what I'm going to say? And anybody in this chat, it's not a must-win.
Must not lose?
I mean, we said that before Burnley away, and then we went and did what we did in December. You know, there's no must-win games with 14 games left to go and 6-point gap to the bottom three. It's not a must-win. It's not. It feels like it because you're trying to compartmentalize like the relegation picture of when winnable games are and when they're not. Right, but we've got a lot of favourable home games coming, and we are still 6 points clear. You know, if we were 6 points behind and we had Forest at home, I'd be probably saying this is a must-win game because the winnable games are going to start running out. But when you're 6 points clear and you've got 13 games then after it, it can't be a must-win.
No.
It's a massive game, and winning the game would go a long way to keeping us up. I'm not stupid, but you can't do this to your own head to say that something's a must-win when it's not a must-win.
No.
We showed in December what we're capable of doing against the bigger teams as well. So, yeah, it's not a must-win. But winning the game would be half a foot back staying in the Premier League. 'Cause a couple of weeks ago, I was pretty confident. Now I'm like rocking a bit. But, you know, it's not a must-win.
No, I'm just looking ahead at West Ham's fixtures, and they're tricky. Obviously, they've got Burnley next week.
Not Burnley next,
but then after that,
that's not going to be easy.
Well, no, it's not, to be fair.
Burnley are going to be desperate, and Burnley are in must-win territory. You know, they're 5 points behind West Ham. If Burnley win that game, they'll be thinking in their head, you know what, we can turn this round. We can still catch them. So that's not an easy game.
No, true. Then they've got a rejuvenated Man United after that, but they've got Liverpool away, they've got Man City visiting, they've got Villa away, Brentford away, Newcastle away. They've got a lot of Arsenal as well still to play. I mean, they've got a lot of tough games of West Ham. You would look at it and go, have they given themselves just a bit too much to do, really? You know, there's nothing worse is when you're on, in that kind of position, and you're still to play Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle away. I mean, that's horrible. I mean, that's 4 really tough games that you'll be lucky to get anything out of straight off the bat.
It's hard to find easy games in the Premier League, isn't it? Let's be honest. Outside of playing Wolves in the first 10 games of the season, it feels like every game's difficult. But yeah, they've definitely got a tall order on, mate. I just want to bring this comment up, and maybe we're finished on this one from Gav. We lost too many leads, need to put a stop to this. While I do agree, I think you also have to take some solace in the fact that a newly promoted, it's all about perspective. A newly promoted team has been able to go in, take leads in a lot of games. You know, there is a positive within that negative. And what would you prefer us to have gone behind in games more often? You know what I mean? And then still get a point. Would that make you feel better? Like, it wouldn't make me feel any better. It makes me feel like we're on the verge of getting it right to then take more points. You know, so I hear you. I do recognise what you're saying, Gav. But I also think that let's try and see that as a bit of a positive, that we're capable of taking so many leads as a newly promoted team. You know what I mean? Burnley don't take that many leads, and guess what? They'll lose more games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
we're still getting points, aren't we? Even
exactly.
If it's still matter. Yeah. Agree. Good stuff. Right, well, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much to everyone who's commented. If you've not liked the video already, if you could do that, and please do subscribe to the channel. Please share the video as well. That'd be much appreciated. Me and Jay, we will be back to preview the Forest game Friday morning, 11 o'clock. So get tuned into that. And then we'll be giving our thoughts on the Forest game at some point as well. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Stephen Brown. With me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.